And welcome to the AIPMM webinar series. I'm delighted to be with you today. We're talking about how to capture more value, pricing for a more valuable portfolio. This is Cindy F. Solomon with you today for the AIPMM webinar series. The AIPMM is at www.aipmm.com and is the Association of International Product Marketing and Management. It is the only organization representing product management professionals, founded in 1998, and providing professional development, training, certification, and opportunities to advance your career. With credentials including the Certified Product Manager, Certified Product Marketing Manager, Agile Certified Product Manager, and the Certified Innovation Leader. I am Cindy F. Solomon, your moderator. I do hold CPM and CPMM credentials through the AIPMM, but I am the founder of the Global Product Management Talk, which is a weekly broadcast about everything having to do with guaranteeing product excellence. Join me on Mondays at blogtalkradio.com/PRODMGMTTALK. As well, I am the founder of the Startup Product Movement, and I am delighted to be with you today and introduce our speaker, Mark Stiving, who is a PhD in pricing. Definitely following this presentation, check out all of the excellent resources he has available at pragmaticpricing.com and follow his blog and site at markstiving.com. And today, please use the questions box to ask your questions. Also, please leave your chat box open where I will be sending you messages. For the people who participate by asking questions, we'll have a drawing at the end to win Mark's book, Impact Pricing. Also coming up is a training in Sunnyvale, an all-day training that Mark is giving on pricing for entrepreneurs and product managers. It's on Saturday, March 30th, which is my birthday, by the way, at Plug and Play in Sunnyvale. And stay on until the end for the drawing for the book and also for a special offer so you can attend that the all-day training. There'll be a very generous discount available at the end of the presentation. So, welcome again to the AIPMM. If you are tweeting, use at AIPMM, and by the way, follow the tweeting at AIPMM for job opportunities. Also, use the hashtag #PRODMGMT, which is a standard for product management events. And take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Cindy. It's probably a little early to say happy birthday, but hey, happy birthday. So today we're going to talk about how to capture more value from your products and your capabilities. As a brief description of who I am, I currently have a full-time job. I'm the director of pricing at Maxim Integrated, which is a $2.5 billion semiconductor company. I do have a PhD in pricing from Berkeley. Actually, my PhD is in marketing, but I like to say pricing because it sounds better. In 1996 to 2000, I was a professor at Ohio State University where I taught pricing, market research, marketing models. I currently still teach pricing with UC Irvine in their executive education program. As you've already seen, I have a book out. I'm a blogger, and I frequently talk and coach about pricing. It turns out that my whole world really is pricing. And I just want to start out with, do you remember when you were 12 years old? Because I remember being 12 years old and sitting in the front lawn of my parents' house, wondering the question, why do companies end prices in 99 cents? Do they think we're stupid? And it was funny because when I was a student at Berkeley, I had the opportunity to research that subject, and it was fascinating. Turns out we're not going to talk about that today, so maybe someday in the future you can ask me that, or I'm sure I have a couple of blogs about that specific topic that you can find it on as well. But suffice it to say, yes, it works when firms price with 99 cents for specific reasons. But let's get into the meat of what we're going to do today. The first question we ask is, what is pricing? Well, it turns out that pricing is a whole bunch of different things. And I've listed here 20 attributes. Let's just go through a few of them. Pricing is powerful. And I say pricing is powerful because there was a McKinsey study, they were the first to point this out. And that is that if you're a company that's making 10% margin on the bottom line, and you could increase your price by 1% without having an effect on sales, you increase your profit by 10%. So a 1% improvement in pricing could lead to a 10% improvement in profitability. That's a huge, huge number. So pricing is very powerful, especially in terms of the leverage that it has. Pricing is grading. This is especially important for all you product managers, so listen to this story real quickly. When I was an MBA student, I had a professor, and the professor at the end of the class, he said to everybody, take out a piece of paper and put your name on the top of the paper. Now give yourself a grade for the class. And if I agree with whatever grade you think you deserve, then you can have it. And if I disagree, then I'll give you what I want. If you think about it, pricing is exactly the same thing. You guys spend time developing products, and when you get to the very end, you have to put a price on it. And that's kind of like me putting a grade on myself in this class. And then just like my professor got to decide whether or not I got that grade, your customers get to decide whether or not you get that price. So in truth, the price is the grade that you get for all of the work you did prior to releasing that product. Pricing is secret. We rarely talk about our best prices because we don't want our customers to see that we give better pricing to other people, and we certainly don't want our competitors to see our best pricing. Pricing is dynamic. It changes on a very regular basis. New competitors enter the market, new products enter the market, new technologies come about, and all of these things drive our pricing. So it's always changing. Pricing is information. People use the actual price that you put on a product to infer something about the product. As we go through the presentation today, we'll talk a little bit about good, better, best, and how people use that as information when they're making a decision. The 99 cents is information that they use when they're making a decision. Pricing is emotional. Nothing makes people angrier than if they think they're being cheated in price. So if you raise pricing, and you do it poorly, you can certainly get an emotional reaction from your customers. Pricing is risky. I think one of the reasons that people don't use pricing as well as they could is there's too much risk involved. First off, it's instantaneous. As soon as you make a price change, you can change people's decision processes. The other reason, though, is that just like pricing is powerful and a 1% improvement in pricing can make a 10% increase in profitability, it could also make a 10% or even more decrease in profitability if you do it poorly. So pricing really is risky, and people may not want to play with it just for that reason. And pricing is specific. I talk to many, many different industries and companies, and it doesn't matter if I talk to two companies in the exact same industry, every pricing situation is different. Now, we're going to talk today about some pretty general concepts that apply across the board to all industries and all situations, but your specific situation, I guarantee you, is different than someone else. And in fact, even inside the company, one product's situation is very different than another product's situation. So pricing is very specific. And we're not going to go through any more of these. This list of 20, and there's probably another 20 that we could create that say this is what pricing is. But we could take all of this and bundle it up into a single concept that says what pricing really is it's that thing that captures value. You as a company are creating value. Almost everything you do is intended to create value. The R&D, the manufacturing, the shipping, everything is creating value, even your marketing. Pricing is that thing that captures all of the value that you've created. Let's go back to that grading story where we're putting a grade on our product. What we're really doing is getting the best grade we can. We're trying to capture all the value that we've created. So let's start with gas station. Think for yourself for a second. What happens to the price of gas when the price of oil goes up by $10? The price of gas goes up instantly. That is an indicator of what we call cost plus pricing. So costs go up, therefore the prices go up. And we as consumers see this on a regular basis. And as consumers, we've gotten used to it and we expect cost plus pricing. But let's look at some other examples. Here's Microsoft delivering Home and Business 2010 to your desktop, and you can have it delivered to your desktop for only $279.95. How much did it cost them to deliver that to your desktop? Really close to zero. And yet they're charging $280? The movie theaters are the same thing. What's the difference in cost to the movie theater if you're sitting in the seat or if you're not sitting in the seat? There's pretty much no difference in cost to the movie theater. And then we can look at pharmaceuticals. These things cost pennies or dimes to make, and yet they sell for tens or hundreds of dollars a piece. In each of these three examples, with Microsoft and the movie theater and the pills, what we see is these companies using value-based pricing. As opposed to charging for, hey, this is what it costs us, and then we're going to mark that up, they're really saying, how much is our customer willing to pay for the product? And as companies, as product managers, that's what we always want to be thinking about. How much is our customer willing to pay for the product? Cost has a tiny impact on whether or not we want to accept that business or sometimes what price we set. But most of the time, cost is not even a consideration. Most of the time, the only thing we care about is how much our customers are willing to pay. So key takeaway number one, and we're going to go through this a little bit more, know your value. Charge what your customers are willing to pay. So let's talk about what is value for a second. Value, it turns out, we can measure it in a couple different ways. There's two really distinct situations. Almost every time you make a decision to buy something, or your customers make a decision to buy something, they make two different decisions. The first decision is, will I buy something in this product category? And the second decision, if I'm going to buy something in this product category, then which one am I going to buy? Let's start with the will I. Normally when I do this presentation in a large room full of people, I always ask the question, how many people have been bungee jumping? And I might get 2 or 3 people to say yes. And then we tell the story. Imagine you go to the California State Fair, and at the State Fair there's this huge crane. And on this crane there's this big sign that says bungee jumping, $75. How many people will go? And usually 1, maybe 2 people will raise their hand. Okay, so imagine that you go to the California State Fair, and there's this huge crane, and on this crane there's this sign that says bungee jumping, $50. Now how many people are going to go? And it's usually the same 1 or 2 people. Nobody changes their mind between $75 and $50 on whether or not they're going to go bungee jumping. And the important part of this lesson is that people who are making this will I decision aren't very price sensitive. Lowering price isn't what grows your market. It's creating value and getting people involved in your product. So will I people are not very price sensitive. I like this picture. If you can see it well, this is a boombox taped to the dashboard of a car. It's a guy's car, and you know it's a guy because a girl would never do this. But no matter how...
And it's an old car.
And it's an old car. But no matter how low Alpine takes the price of a car stereo, this guy is not buying a car stereo. So the will I decision, he's not price sensitive. So this is really important. When our customers are making a will I decision, they are not price sensitive. We're going to see later in the presentation how we can possibly help our customers or put our customers in that will I mind state, mind frame. Now, the opposite is true when we get to which one. My brother bought his first flat panel TV set about 3 years ago. And prior to that, it didn't matter what the prices were and what promotions happened because he was making that will I decision, and he had decided he wasn't going to buy one. But once he made the decision, yes, I'm going to go buy one, guess what he did? He started scouring the Best Buy ads. He's trading off price for the right size and which technologies. But price became a really important issue to him in making this decision on which one. And that is where most of our customers are buying. When we have competition, our customers are comparing our products and our prices to our competitors' products and prices. So price has a very powerful impact when our customers are making this choice on which one do I want to buy. Now imagine for a second that you go to the grocery store. Here in California, we have a grocery store called Safeway. And so you go to the grocery store and you can buy Del Monte green beans for $1.69. Or you could buy Safeway Select green beans for $1.49. Think to yourself, which one are you going to buy? Del Monte at $1.69 or Safeway Select at $1.49? It doesn't matter which you choose, but what matters is why you chose it. In general, if you chose Del Monte for $1.69, you chose it because you like the brand name, because you think they have better quality, because you don't want your friends to see you buy the generic store brand. Whatever the reason is, you bought it for those reasons, those additional reasons. And if you buy the Safeway Select instead of the Del Monte, the reason is probably something like, usually it's the same product in the cans anyway, they're all manufactured from the same place, there's no real quality difference, I'd rather just save the money. And both of those are wonderful reasons. There isn't a right or wrong answer. But here's the important thing to note. What you did was you said $1.69 or $1.49. It's 20-cent difference. Is it worth 20 cents to buy the more expensive one? And then you answered yes or no to that question. So what we're really saying is it's all about differentiation. How is it that one product is different from another, and is it worth the difference in price? Here's an ad that you may have seen before, but it drives home this point of differentiation.
All right. Mark, can you make it louder? Because we can't hear it. We see it.
Sweet. And I've got a lot of angles to read. You know, it sounds
Can
like
you hear
a lot
it?
of stuff to do before you do.
Still soft.
I'm just going to get kind of excited. Let me know when you're...
Can you hear it better?
Some other boxes, so
Better.
I'll meet up with you later.
Okay, let's replay it.
Okay.
If you guys didn't get to hear it, I want you to hear it.
Hello, I'm a Mac. I'm a PC.
Ready to get started?
Well, not quite. Got a lot to do. What's your big plan?
I might make a whole movie or maybe create a website, try out my built-in camera. I can do it all right out of the box, so what about you?
Well, first I got to download those new drivers, and I got to erase the trial software that came on my hard drive.
Sweet.
And I've got a lot of manuals to read.
You know, it sounds like you have a lot of stuff to do before you do any stuff, so I'm just going to get started because I'm kind of excited. Let me know when you're ready.
Actually, the rest of me's in some other boxes, so I'll meet up with you later.
So the point of that whole advertisement is Apple is showing you, hey, we're different than PCs. And that differentiation is why they get away with charging higher prices, because otherwise they couldn't get away with charging higher prices. So value is differentiation. Now, think about for a second all of the things about a Mac that are better or different than a PC. And just run through that list in your mind, and then watch this video.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC.
I'm afraid to ask.
Well, I was sitting on my desk.
Yeah.
Someone walked by, carelessly tripped over my power cord, yanked me straight down to the ground. Bang!
Yikes. MacBooks come with this power cord that connects magnetically, so when it gets pulled, it just pops right off. Everything's just kind of thought out, you know, like the tiny built-in eyesight
My
camera.
life is flashing before my eyes. I see the sunset in a field of beautiful wheat.
Isn't that your screensaver?
Yeah.
And so the whole point of that slide or that advertisement was that you probably didn't think of the power cord that pops out of a PC, of a Mac. I've done this to hundreds or thousands of people, and once somebody said they thought of that power cord.
Well, excuse me, Mark, but we're talking with product people and designers, UX people. So those are the kinds of things they do think about. I just have to let you know that.
No, and maybe they did think about it. But here's what's important, is that if our customers don't know about it, they can't value it. And so Mac puts on this advertisement to make sure potential customers understand, hey, there really is value here. See what this is. And so value isn't just differentiation. Value is perceived differentiation. What do our customers think is different between our product and our competitor's product? So if we go back to that green bean story, it doesn't matter what the truth is between Del Monte and Safeway green beans. It matters what our customers think the truth is between Del Monte and green beans. And so our job as marketers and product people is first and foremost to create value, so create differentiation. Secondly, find value. Oftentimes our customers find things that we never designed in, and they say, hey, this is different and unique and important. So find that value. And then finally, we need to communicate that value, because that's the only way we get paid for it, is if we're able to communicate how we're different and better than our competition. And so that brings us back to key takeaway number one, which was know your value, charge what your customers are willing to pay. Let's move into another topic, segmentation. If you were to look at these three people, who in that picture do you think would spend the most for a video game? So it's probably the young guy. Who would spend the most for a haircut? Probably the lady. What do you think the older gentleman would pay more for than anything else? A suit, a briefcase. The idea here is that these three different people have a different willingness to pay. So wouldn't it be great if we could find ways to charge these people different amounts based on how much they're really willing to pay? And that's what this whole section is about. How can we get customers to pay closer to what they're willing to pay? Is it fair? What a fantastic conversation and discussion to have. But in the end, it is fair. Customers will perceive it as fair, especially when you follow a tip that I'm going to give you towards the end of this section, and that is how to do segmentation. But you can justify to yourself that it's fair when you think about all of the different ways you see price segmentation going on today. And we're about to go through a bunch of those, and you'll be able to recognize them more easily as you go forward. So our key takeaway that we're going to get out of this section: segment your pricing, charge more to customers who are willing to pay more. So how do we do this? There are really 4 key ways that we can charge different customers different prices. So that's based on the characteristics of the customer, information about the transaction itself. We can take advantage of specific behaviors of our customers. And then finally, we can design and develop products that manage this price segmentation issue. So let's start by looking at the movie theaters. And this one movie theater board is going to give us 3 good examples of price segmentation. First, let's just look at the customer characteristics. As a normal adult, I pay $11 to get into the movie theater. Children only have to pay $8. Seniors pay $10. All that's happening is that someone is saying the characteristic of age is correlated, statistically correlated with how much someone's willing to pay, and therefore we're going to give discounts to seniors and to children so we can get more customers. So that's a really nice price segmentation method. You see the same thing when seniors get free coffee at McDonald's. So we see things like this all of the time. Transaction information. If you want to go to the movies at night, it costs you $11. If you're willing to go in the afternoon, it's a $9 matinee. But if you'll go in the morning, it's only $6. So this is information about that transaction that helps us say, hey, we can price based on how much we think a customer is willing to pay. Something that is pretty common in industry is volume discounts. And the reason volume discounts work is that somebody who's going to buy 1 of something is much less price sensitive than somebody who's going to buy 100 of something. Somebody who will buy 100 of something are going to work harder to find a better deal, and so therefore they're more price sensitive, and we want to give them a more aggressive price so that we can win that business. So that's information about the transaction can help inform us what we want to do for pricing. We're going to talk a lot about product, but in this case, for the movie theater, they're using product as a price segmentation tool as well. So you can pay $11 as an adult to go see the movie, but if you want to see it in real 3D, it's an extra $5. And if you want to see it in IMAX, it's an extra $6. And IMAX 3D is an extra $7. So these are simply add-ons, but we're getting people who are willing to pay more, and yet the people who are price sensitive, they can still get in for only $11. So these are all segmentation techniques. Now here's one of my favorites. It's behaviors. A coupon is really saying, Mr. Customer, are you price sensitive or not? If you are price sensitive, I want you to prove it by trading some of your life for a discount. And when I say trading some of your life, I'm really saying how much time and energy are you willing to put into looking for a coupon, clipping the coupon, carrying it around with you, remembering to use it. This is all effort and energy. So you're trading bits of your life for a discount. And only people who are price sensitive are going to do that. People who are not price sensitive are not going to do that. So this is just a phenomenal way to get some customers who are price sensitive to get a better price, and other customers who have a higher willingness to pay, they're just not going to use coupons because they don't want to be bothered. So I love this behaviors for that specific reason. Now read this. This is pretty fascinating. We're back to the transactions issue for a second. In 1999, Coke created this really cool technology where they could change the price of a Coke based on the temperature outside. The Coke at a vending machine, I should say, based on the temperature outside. And as you can see what's circled in red, here in the New York Times, they've advertised they can automatically raise prices for its drinks in hot weather. You can probably imagine this didn't go over very well. And they pulled it almost immediately. Now imagine instead of Coke saying, we are going to raise prices for drinks in hot weather? What if they said, we're going to lower prices for drinks in cold weather? Huge difference in perception. And that is the trick on being fair. What Coke advertised is, here's our normal price, but we're going to charge more in these special circumstances. But price segmentation in almost every circumstance is seen as fair if you charge a normal price that's highest and find reasons to offer discounts. So you'll notice in the movie theater, we had an $11 price and we offered discounts to seniors or to children. We had, in this case, Coke could have a regular high price and offer discounts on cold days. So if you start with the high price and offer discounts for reasons to people who are price sensitive, it is much, much easier to get that approved by your customers. Now, we have talked a little bit about products. Let's talk about products some more. This is a slide or a picture that I took at a Chevy's once because it was a really cool picture. And you can see here that you can buy the Cadillac Margarita for $7.75. You could buy a top shelf margarita for $8.95, or a Dos Patrones margarita for $9.75. Essentially, it's $1 difference between each one. And you could think of this as the classic good, better, best. Most people, when they're going to buy something, here's how they think. If I'm really price sensitive and I'm struggling to buy something, then I'm going to buy the good. So they'll buy the $7.75. Some people who are fabulously wealthy and don't really worry about money, they'll just buy the best. All the rest of us, we buy the one in the middle.
Excuse me.
Yep.
But they wouldn't be at Chevy's. Those people
who wouldn't be at Chevy's?
The people who are price is no option.
So wait till you see this. I appreciate that thought, but Chevy's has the High Rollerita for $30. Who would ever buy a $30 margarita?
And that's just for one drink? That's not the whole
that's
bottle?
That's for one drink.
I guess if you're celebrating.
So it could be you're celebrating. It could be you're there trying to show off to your date. It could be that you're on an expense account. There are a select few reasons. What's important is that the fact that they have this $30 margarita on the menu makes that $9.75 margarita look much less expensive.
Yep.
So this is a concept called anchoring. And we can anchor people's minds to these really high prices, and then our normal high prices don't seem as high. But our whole key takeaway for this section is we want to segment our pricing. We want to charge more to customers who are willing to pay more. And then as we talk about product portfolio, because as product managers, you all have portfolios, you want to think about two different things that are important: versions and complements. Versions are like the good, better, best that we just saw, the 3 different versions or 4 different versions of a margarita. And as I look at this slide here for McDonald's, notice that the price of a double cheeseburger is $1, and the price of a cheeseburger is $1.09. That's really interesting. And this has to do with their portfolio. The double cheeseburger is what they have advertised on the outside. It's in the dollar menu. It's what brings some people in. But other people come in just to buy a cheeseburger, and they're not there comparing prices. Because if they were, they'd certainly buy a double cheeseburger and just cut it in half. So in this case, they have different products for different purposes, and they're set at very different and unique prices. But the other thing to know is at $1, McDonald's loses money on the double cheeseburger. In fact, you may have noticed a couple years ago, they switched from a double cheeseburger to what they call a McDouble. So what they've done is they've taken 2 pieces of cheese and turned it into 1 piece of cheese. And even now, the franchisees are saying we're losing money on a McDouble at $1. But that's okay. Because, when you spend $1.89 for a soda, it costs them 15 cents to make that. And what they're planning on is you spending $1 on a double cheeseburger and then buying a soda or fries where they make a lot of money to go with that. And this is what we call the complements. And we always want to be thinking about what can we do in the complementary world.
Excuse me, Mark. I have a question about anchoring.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you mind if I ask you the question now?
I don't, especially since we're going to do anchoring again one more time.
Okay. Well, let me give you the question and then you can decide when to answer it. But the concept of anchoring is very interesting.
Please.
But this person works in a niche market where most customers are less frequent, but they're much larger. And most of their sales come from referrals. In those situations, there's really no way to charge different prices to different customers. So how do you anchor and segment in those markets? It's a niche market where customers are less frequent, but larger. And apparently it's for services.
Yes. Okay, so I'm not sure that is actually an anchoring question. I think it's more of a can I get away with price segmentation question.
Okay.
And the answer to that is absolutely. And most people don't compare prices across industries. So typically I have no idea what other companies are charging or what other people pay for things. It's pretty uncommon to know. And then you can also, as I said before, come up with reasons for why you would charge a different price. So for example, let's pretend that you're charging $100 for something, doesn't matter what it is, and you charge that same $100 over and over and over and over again. What you could always do is just raise your price to $125 and offer a $25 discount to all current customers. And so what you've now done is you said, I've got this new pricing structure, it's $125, but for my historical customers, you get a $25 discount. Or for customers who have a low willingness to pay for whatever reason, and however you identify that, you say this type of customer is going to get a discount for this reason. But in general, people don't know. And as long as you start by saying, hey, this is my price list, this is what I charge, and then offer discounts as you go through, you can usually find a way to do that.
Great.
So I wanted to bring up anchoring one more time. This is on my webpage. I charge $250 for an hour of consulting or coaching. I don't really do consulting, but I just want you to understand what I did here because this was kind of cool. I wanted to charge $250 for coaching, but that sounds expensive. So what I did was I said, well, let's make it the individual version as $250 for hourly coaching. But we have this executive or corporate and group price of $500 per hour. And suddenly the $250 looks much less expensive. And that's all I was doing here was saying, I've never had anybody pay me $500 for an hour of coaching. And that's okay. The idea is that it makes it easier for people to pay $250. That's the concept of anchoring.
But Mark, until you told us that, I didn't know that you didn't regularly have people paying at the $500 level.
Yeah. Oh, you mean I shouldn't have told you?
Right.
So I normally don't tell people this. I tell it to people that I'm teaching pricing to.
Okay.
I guess that's all my clients, though, isn't it? I'm really not trying to get $500 per hour for coaching. I use that specifically to make it look like $250 is less expensive.
Got it.
So let's go back to compliments now. And we're back at the movie theater, and I love the movie theater example because remember early on we were talking about will I and which one? So when you make a decision on what movie theater to go to, you're not thinking, well, how much is the popcorn at this theater versus that theater? You're thinking, what's the movie time? Where's the movie showing? If there's a difference in price to get into the theater, you might use that as a decision process, but most of them charge the same price, so there isn't. And then once you show up at the theater, the question is no longer, well, do I want to buy popcorn at this theater or that other theater? It's just, do I want to buy popcorn or not? And so now you're in that will I decision, And that's why they get away with charging absolutely ridiculous prices for popcorn, because you don't have a comparison. You can't go somewhere else. You're just saying, do I want to buy or not? And you're much less price sensitive. And so the question becomes, can we find other ways where we can get our customers to make the which one decision and then add on will I decisions for us? These would be things like accessories that we might be able to sell where they're much less price sensitive. Insurance processes. There are many things that you can come up with over time that'll do that. This is a really cool picture because I was sitting in a diner in Florida and I was just reading, there's these advertisements that are built into the table. And I asked the waitress, so how much does it cost to put an ad here? She goes, depending on the size of the ad, it's between $75 and $200, and the ad will stay there for 3 years. Think about this. This is a diner selling advertising. I thought that was really cool, because what they're doing is saying, what else do I have that I can sell? What are my other complementary methods that I can make money with?
Excuse me, Mark. I have a couple of questions. One is that much of your examples are focused on B2C. But a lot of the listeners, especially this questioner, is saying they're in a very competitive retail commodity market focused on B2B. Their business customers are very price sensitive and not supplier loyal. Do you find that these tactics hold in the B2B pricing arena?
So, in general, if you recall back at the very beginning, I said pricing is specific. So it's specific to each individual situation. But every one of the 3 generic concepts I'm talking about applies in almost every situation. So you may not be able to use one specific technique that we've talked about, but you'll certainly find techniques in the world of price segmentation. How do I segment my prices? So typically, if we talk about B2B retail, some customers are very price sensitive, other customers aren't so price sensitive. So how do you find the customers who are less price sensitive and charge them more money? And how do you make it so it's less expensive for the ones who are real price sensitive? So the issue here isn't, is it possible? The issue is, how do you figure out who is willing to pay more? Who goes out of their way to get great prices? And so I know that in the world that I live in, which is semiconductors, some products are extremely commodity type products. And yet the companies with the best purchasing agents, those are the ones who get the best prices. And that's because we have an ability to find out, who's willing to pay more and who's not willing to pay more, and charge them different prices. So they always work. I shouldn't say they always work. The same concepts work in almost every situation, but there isn't I can't necessarily give you the method that works in your situation.
Great. And we seem to be, the concept of anchoring. There's a couple of questions about that. Well, one has to do with your specific statement said that a normal consultation, ... the additional profit. So is that truth in advertising?
So in what sense? What did I say that was not truthful?
I don't know. I'm reading you the questions as they come in. And then the other issue around that is asking, is there actual, is there data to support the anchoring? For example, a conversion increase from perhaps before the $500 offering was displayed. So did you see an increase in, income before you posted the $500?
So there isn't data in my experience, in my specific example, because I started out with both on the page because I knew what I wanted to do. So in my case, there's not that pre-data and post-data to show you that. There is a ton of data to show that anchoring works. And all you're doing is trying to make the customer believe that they're not getting cheated, that they're getting a good price. One of the other things that happens, and I'm going to go back to good, better, best to flip that around for a second. I was talking to a bunch of the remodeling industry not too long ago. And these guys all go out and they do a bid and they give somebody this bid. And if you're going to go get a bid as a homeowner, typically you go to 3 or 4 different contractors to get these bids so that you can compare them. But imagine for just a second if the contractor came in and handed you 3 bids. There was a good, a better, and a best bid at 3 different prices. You may be less likely to go get another bid now because you've already got 3 to choose from and you can choose one of those. The whole concept here is giving the customer enough information that they're willing to make the decision that you need them to make, that you want them to make. And so by giving them that anchor, by giving them the good, better, best, you're giving them the choice because they don't want to just blindly buy something at some price. Certainly it doesn't work for all customers at all times. Don't imagine that. But if it works for some customers, hey, that's more customers.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so let's finish up this compliments piece because I find this stuff fascinating. Here's Disneyland, and if you look outside Disneyland, what exists outside Disneyland is Anaheim. Roy Disney bought this 510 acres, he built this park, and then so many millions of people would flock to Disneyland that they were able to build up huge hotels and restaurants and all sorts of attractions outside of Disneyland. And a bunch of people made money because Roy Disney built Disneyland. 50 years ago, Disney built Disney World. This little tiny dot at the top, that's the same as the 510 acres that you see in California for Disneyland. They bought 25,000 acres. There's 27 resort hotels on this property that are all owned by Disney. Disney knew that they were bringing in millions of people to their product. And so in this case, they built the complements themselves so that they're able to take advantage of this attraction that they're bringing for their product. So as they're able to attract people, they can then make more of the share of wallet, more of the money from their customers. And this example drives this point home. Google is making $1.70 for every single Android device. And that's pretty nice. Every device out there, they get $1.70 in total revenue for stuff. Apple, how much do you think they make for every iOS device that's on the marketplace? $576. All you can do is say, wow. Google is Disneyland. Apple is Disney World. Apple makes revenue not only on the iOS, they make revenue on the hardware, they make revenue on the apps, they make revenue on the accessories. Apple makes revenue everywhere because they create the value and they found ways to capture value for everything that happens around that initial value they've created. So I love this example. And then finally, most people are software people, or I should say a lot of people are software people nowadays. And so one concept that I think is a really important concept for all of us to think about is this issue of free. And we want to be able to give stuff away for free, but eventually we want to get paid for the things that we give away. So for one quick example, I'm doing this webinar for free, and someday I'm going to get paid for it. Not Cindy won't pay me, but somebody will pay me. But someday I'll get paid for it in terms of people that want to take my class or buy my book or hire me for coaching or whatever it happens to be. But you just want to have this concept that says, how much can I give away for free? Because eventually I can turn that into revenue or income. And there are many different ways that we can do free things, so free samples and free trials, free information, and pay as you wish. There was a really cool Radiohead story from mid-2000s, I think, where they put their record out as a pay-as-you-wish, and they claimed to make a lot of money, a lot more money than they would have made otherwise in this pay-as-you-wish. You can just download it for free and pay them whatever you want it to. Network memberships like LinkedIn or Facebook are free to join, and ad-supported. A lot of people do free and then ad-supported, and then we have this whole concept of freemium. And freemium is a big deal for a lot of people today. I find that it's pretty poorly understood. And as I talk to software people, the thing you want to think about with freemium is you want all of those freeloaders. A lot of people I talk to that are thinking of freemium are thinking, oh, I don't like these freeloaders. I want to be able to either turn them into paying customers or get rid of them. But you really want the freeloaders because the freeloaders are the ones that build the network. What you want is a business model that says, if I can get 1 to 2% people paying for my product and the other 98 to 99% getting it for free, I make a lot of money. And you can grow a huge business that way if you can grow your network. So that's the way to think about freemium, that you can make money and be profitable at a 1 to 2% conversion rate and be thrilled that all these people that are using your network are helping you attract paying customers. So that's a really brief update on getting paid for free. But our takeaway number 3 is have a product portfolio. And that consists of different versions of products. It's the good, better, best. It's the anchoring. It has to do with complementary products. Build something that attracts customers and then find ways to sell them more around the things that you've attracted them with. And that brings us to the summary of the 3 takeaways. So we talked about knowing your value and always using value-based pricing, not cost-plus pricing. Segmenting your marketplace. So you want to charge customers what they are willing to pay. And then finally, building a product portfolio. That is me again, and we're about to take questions. Before we take questions, let me go ahead and do a quick advertisement for you. This is how I'm going to get paid for free, by the way. We put together a training course, and it's pricing for entrepreneurs and product managers. In general, the content is what you saw today in terms of the topics, but what we do is we take a deep dive into each of these 3 big issues, and we run exercises so that you can see how they work inside your company and your situation. We're going to do this on Saturday, March 30th from 9 to 5 at Plug and Play. And if you use the code AIPMM, you can get a 25% discount off of the course. So you're welcome to join, and I'd love to see you there. So Cindy?
Yeah, so I have a question about the course, and I think you actually answered it, but you said that pricing is specific and unique, so can they bring their specific pricing issues having to do with their unique products in their specific environments?
So the answer is absolutely. We've developed a series of exercises to go through, and as we go through those exercises, what we want you to do isn't, I'm not going to give you a can of Coke and say, here, price this. I really want you to take your products and go through the exercises and say, what do I know and how do I think about my products and my competition and the way my customers make decisions? And the great thing about that is we're going to limit the class size to 12 people, and I will be there the whole time. So in a way, you're getting a day's worth of consultation with me because I care a lot that you learn these concepts and get to apply them in your business.
Great. So, a comment here that the actual statistic for freemium is that 8% will pay for the software, and that comes from freemium.org.
Okay, I would have to research that. I can say that if you read the book Free by Chris Anderson, he shows that he was doing research on many companies that were doing the freemium on up. Mind you, we published this 3 years ago or so. And he was using 1 to 5%, and most people were in the 1 to 2% range.
So I wonder, I'll have to go investigate as well. And I wonder if it makes a big difference on the type of software as well, whether it's an application or whether it's business software or what. I wonder if that makes a difference. So, okay, still around anchoring.
I love this topic. Let's go.
Great. Okay. Aren't you potentially spending marketing and advertising money on a product you have little intention of selling? For example, the more expensive product that most people won't buy.
So you do not have to market and sell it. All you have to do is offer it and make it. I'm sorry, you don't have to market it. You have to offer it and make it available so that people can see it. Now, potentially, sure, if you're going to spend a lot of development dollars to create a product that nobody ever buys, that doesn't make much sense. But if it doesn't cost you a lot to build the product and offer the product, then what you're doing is you're setting your customer's mindset that you can get away with, that other people pay a higher price for the product. So all you're doing is setting. In marketing or in academics, we use this concept called a reference price, where people have this number in their head. It isn't a specific number, but think of it as a specific number in their mind, and they're saying if it's above that, it's expensive, and if it's below that, it's inexpensive, and therefore I'm getting a good deal. And with anchoring, what we're trying to do is get people to raise their reference price. And what you have to say to yourself in this example, and in every example, how much does it cost me to do that? And is it worth it? Am I going to get a return out of the things that I spend money to do? So I'm certainly not saying go out and develop a new hardware product that you're never, ever going to sell. But there's nothing at all wrong with creating offers of things that you don't really intend to sell, or you may not sell a lot of, that you're still getting a lot of value for. So here's good.
Well, just from a product marketer's point of view, there's a concern that you have to tell the truth. If you have no intention of selling the product at that price, you have to be careful that you're not lying about it, but what you're really doing is positioning that product within a pricing option.
Yeah, so let me be blunt for a second. I never, ever want to lie to my customers. Never want to lie to my customers. And I don't think anybody ever wants to as well. So when I think of anchoring, I think of, let's go back to the Chevy's example, and there's a $30 margarita there. I would be shocked if they sold 2 of those a week. Absolutely shocked. But there's nothing unethical or lying or anything about that. It's just there. And so they can make it, and it didn't cost them much to develop it. So there's nothing at all wrong with them having it and selling it. And by the way, when IBM calls me for a consultation, I'm going to charge them $500.
Great. And there's a place in New York City where you can get, I think it's $1,000 ice cream sundae. And it actually has gold leaf in it. I saw it on TV. And they actually do, and you have to plan on it. You have to reserve it months or maybe years in advance. And they do sell them, but it's also has become part of their advertising, and it's not the only thing they sell. There's a guy who had a $47 Starbucks coffee made recently. So the point is definitely that there is a price for whatever you want to pay, and it's not about the cost of the product necessarily. It's about almost the customer satisfaction, what they are willing to pay that will make them happy. So
that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I wouldn't focus so much on anchoring. I think anchoring is a cool concept if you can make it work for you, right? If it's not painful and easy. But what I would focus a lot on, and I think everybody should be focused on, is good, better, best. So it's the same issue in terms of what versions of products are we going to offer. Good, better, best is something that everybody should be thinking of. And you should set your good product and price so that people who are just scraping to buy in the product category, it's your most competitive offering, you're making the lowest amount of margin you possibly are willing to accept. That's that good product. And then from there, you start raising the price to build a better product, and you make more margin on that product. And then the best product is the one that says, look, I'm going to make a lot of margin on this product, and I get it that I'm not going to have a huge market for this, but I'm going to sell a bunch. I'll sell some of them, but having that best helps you sell a lot more of the better.
So we've come to the end of the hour, and I want to get in the giveaway for your book, Impact Pricing. Why don't you put up your slide while I do the raffle? The slide to get in touch with you. There are a few more questions about specifically. There you go. Mark, get in touch with Mark Stiving directly, ms@markstiving.com. And the winner of the book is Monique Garlington. Congratulations, Monique. You have won a free copy of Impact Pricing, your blueprint for driving profits. And I'd like to tell you congratulations coming up on Monday on the Global Product Management Talk. I am talking with Purnima Vijayashankar about lean product development methodology, specifically about software. It's a podcast. You can listen. Go to blogtalkradio.com/PRODMGMTTALK. And next week on the AI PMM webinar series, we're talking about product management leadership. It's a high level about forwarding your career and about improving your product management processes within your organization with Brian Lawley of the 280 Group. Please join us next week for the AI PMM webinar, and follow the links below to the LinkedIn company on AI PMM and to find out more about membership and certification. Thank you very much. The participants, great participants, very active questions. Delighted to have you join us. Please join us again, and thank you so much, Mark. Let's do this again as well.
Great. Thanks, Cindy.
Okay, have a great week.